Okay, this is a tutorial for the Sado Form object. As you can see right here, I've defined an ORM object user. I have it set up in the schema file and linked to the class user, so that you will need an ORM class to be able to use a form. And this basically links this class to the table users, and I have that table set up here with some data. So now I can set up my form class. I'll just call it user form. So I've showed how to easily add and modify records with the ORM objects. User or Sado form is a simpler way to do that through a form. So I'm going to go ahead and set up the form. So I'm going to build a constructor. I'm going to tell Sado what model or ORM object to use for this form. So I'm going to say this model is, I'm going to pass it an instance of the ORM object I'm using, which is the user. And that basically tells the form to use the users table. Okay, now I can add a field. I'm going to put the field name, and then I'm going to add a label. Then I'm going to add email field. I'm going to add a submit button. And the value for the submit, and then I'm going to activate the form, and this is going to activate all the components of the form, and that's important to have. Okay, so now go down here and say form equals new. Okay, and let's see what that does. So okay, here's my form. It's giving me labels. I'm not using a style sheet, so it's kind of ugly right now, but if you view the source, you'll see it's created everything here for the form. So let's go back to code. Okay, so the form's already ready to go. I can go ahead and try to use the form here. I can say new user. I'm going to save. Okay, so we can go to the table, and there's a new user. It's that simple to insert records using the form. There's a lot of different methods though to use with the form. We'll take a look at a couple of those. Okay, so the form, when submitted, will auto-protect against SQL injection. One more thing you can use for protection is, as you can see, I have a field called isActive. So I want to protect a user from being able to create their own form and submit to this page. If I want to protect that field, not allow it to be inserted on or updated, I can use the method flush field. So I can add one field, or I can also make an array of fields and pass that, and it will flush all those. So no matter what is submitted through to the form, these fields are basically going to be ignored. So that's one thing to remember. Form validation is very easy. Say I want to require the username here. So I'm going to use the validate method. On this field, I can add an error. And then I'm going to add the rule that I want to use. In this case, I'm going to say rule not null. So I want to make sure there's something there. And you can look at the Sado Form field validator class to see all the available rules. So I'm going to go ahead and save that, go back to the form, and now I'm going to put nothing for the name, an email. Now it's going to give me an error right here. Now again, use style sheet to make it look good, but it's not going to allow the form to submit because there's no value there. Okay, now there's several methods that can be used after a form is submitted. So the first one is on post is going to be called immediately after the form is submitted. So that would be before validation. So you can call something like data manipulation here, or something like that. The next one that's called is on validate. So this is after validation. So if you want to do some kind of data manipulation after the data is validated, you do that here. And then there's also on validate fail. So this is going to happen, obviously, validation fails. You can call something here, send a user somewhere else, warn them your own, or send a different method. It's up to you. Then there is on save. This is directly after the record has been inserted in the database or updated. And then of course there's on save fail, which shouldn't happen at all, but if it does happen, you can kind of catch that error there. So for example, on here, after the form is saved, I'm going to echo out the save ID, which is the same as the insert ID. I'm going to say this get save ID. Okay, so I'm going to go back and load this. Name, email. And then save 21 as the ID. Go to the user table. And there's 21. So that's just an example of how that can be used. So at any point, you can get the ORM class itself, or the instance of the ORM object, by using this get Sado ORM. So now you can call anything that you would normally call to the instance of user, which is an instance of the ORM object. And in turn, I can get the a reference to the actual Sado connection object here too. So I can say get Sado instance from the ORM object. Okay, so this is showing how to add a new user. I could also choose to edit a user. So I'm going to go ahead and load user ID here. I'm going to come down here and say user ID of, let's just do 21. And then here I'm going to go ahead and load the user ID. So we're basically saying when you load this instance of user, load it with the ID. So I can come back here, go in here and you can see it's already pre-populated. So now I can edit this. Let's just try name 2, save, go back to the table, and name 2. It's that easy to edit records using the Sado Form class. There's a lot more methods and properties in the Sado Form class, which you can read through there, such as adding to the header footer HTML. There's many different fields, field types, all of it using the syntax of this field, like field text area. There's many different field types, so you can take a look through those. And that's it.